All right, we're moving on to the submarine fiasco. Let's go.
Now that we can confirm that the 5 passengers aboard the Titan expedition mission to the ocean's floor to witness the wreckage of the Titanic have, in fact, been confirmed dead.
It is, in fact, a sad day. I'm Lana Zach. It's good to be with you as we have been following ever since the Coast Guard initially tweeted out that some debris had been found. We now know from the Coast Guard that the debris that they found is consistent with a catastrophic implosion.
The vessel was carrying 5 people. As we've been reporting, it disappeared on Sunday during a dive to the Titanic wreckage. Officials say the initial fragments found include a landing frame, a rear cover from the submersible, among other pieces of this vessel.
In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
There at that press conference was Associated Press reporter Michael Casey. He joins us now. Michael, talk to us about what it was like. Did you have any suspicion that this is what they would, or had any confirmation priorly that this is what the Coast Guard would confirm at this press conference? And what else besides what we've been discussing did you learn about when and how and why this happened?
Well, the first part was, we had some inkling because, as we were getting ready for the press conference, the family had issued a statement basically saying that those on board had been lost, and that obviously came after the earlier statement about some debris being found. And so we kind of went into the press conference assuming the worst, I guess, if you will. And in terms of, they confirmed, all they could really say is that they believe that the debris was consistent with an implosion, but there's still a lot of questions to be answered including like when, how, those kind of things they weren't able to answer.
Yeah. Michael, have you been able to learn anything more from your sources about what happens next in terms of putting together this detailed timeline that the Coast Guard referred to, trying to answer some of those questions that you raised?
Well, I mean, it sounds like they're going to be on site for a while. I mean, they made it clear that it was a very difficult, kind of harsh environment, and they didn't say. They didn't say how long it would take, but I think
there is nothing funnier than the fact that the U.S. Navy heard the implosion days prior, but because they have a top secret, acoustics device, and they kind of didn't know what it was. They just did not reveal that, and they let everyone. They did tell the Coast Guard they liked the drama. They were like, listen, I kind of dig the drama. Okay, we like what's going on. We're big fans of the Titanic. Okay. We're just going to let it, we're going to let it go. We're not going to say nothing. We're just going to let it go.
Well, I've been down there many times. I know the wreck site very well, as does my friend Bob Ballard. I've made 33 dives. I actually calculated that I've spent more time on the ship than the captain did back in the day. And of course, as a submersible designer myself, I designed and built a sub to go to the deepest place in the ocean, 3 times deeper than Titanic. So I understand.
It's just true. He's so sick, dude. I mean, come on, brother. Come on. This mother literally flexing. He's in the pocket. You know what I mean? This is his shit. He's basically saying skill issue. James Cameron, 33, nil, stay winning, get wrecked, rich bozos.
The engineering problems associated with building this type of vehicle and all the safety protocols that you have to go through. And I think that what Bob said, because I was watching, is absolutely critical for people to really get the take-home message from this, from our effort here, is deep submergence diving is a mature art. From the early 60s, where there were a few accidents, nobody was killed in the deep submergence, until now, is more time than between Kitty Hawk and the flight of the first 747. So if we haven't improved over that period of time, and we have improved drastically over that period of time, and the certification protocols that all other deep submergence vehicles, except this one, that carry passengers, especially paying passengers, all over the world in tropical waters, deep coral reefs, other wreck sites, and so on.
Bro, he just did the dabbing on the corpse meme, dude. he's out here doing like smoking on the dead pack. No, Murad already admitted he was wrong. Did you see that Ocean Gate got $450K in PPP loans forgiven? Thank God.
The safety record is the gold standard. Absolutely. Not only no fatalities, but no major incidents requiring all of these assets to converge to a site. Of course, that's the nightmare that we've all lived with, since all of us entered this field of deep exploration. We live with it in the back of our minds. But because implosion, as Bob described it, such a violent event, is first and foremost in our minds. The pressure boundary, which is what they call the hull of the sub, that the people go inside, is obviously first and foremost in our minds as engineers. And we spend so much time and energy on that. And we use all the computerized tools available today, finite element analysis. We worked on our sphere for our deep vehicle that went to the Challenger Deep for over 3 years, just in the computer, before we even made the thing. And then, of course, we pressure tested it over and over and over, and so on. So, this is a mature art, and many people in the community were very concerned about this sub. And a number of the top players in the deep submergence engineering community even wrote letters to the company saying that what they were doing was too experimental to carry passengers and that needed to be certified and so on. So I'm struck by...
Dude,
Yo, I watched that press conference when I came home at 5 in the morning.
You came home at 5?
Yeah.
You're a fucking demon. Dude, James Cameron is talking for the past 3 minutes about how sick his submarine that he built has been, basically flexing on the dead. He's like, I went down 33 times, nothing happened, you idiots. Like,
James submerges. It's what he
does. He said I went down to the
Wait,
Mariana Trench, obviously. He's like, that's 3 times deeper than where they fucking went to.
That's not even the story, though.
What?
The story is that my man is wearing like a motocross jersey on national
dude, he's
news
living his fucking
to talk
life.
about
He's living
one
his
of
life.
the most horrible
He's so sick.
tragedies in
Yeah,
recent memory.
he basically said we all told them they were gonna die. Losers get wrecked. I've never seen somebody just so openly shit on a bunch of like dead billionaires and millionaires. Very aggressive. Did you know that the fucking Navy literally knew about it too? They heard the implosion with their listening devices. Cameron, another like when it happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you been following this saga?
Yeah, somebody got into a submarine controlled by an Xbox controller, and shit didn't go right.
Yeah, Marat gets really mad when people
what I
talk
mean?
about the Xbox
I don't
controller.
know. I don't know what else to say. But like somebody got like I don't understand why the you would get. I won't even get into a plane that's operated by like a professional pilot if it has a propeller on it, let alone a submarine with an Xbox controller. You crazy?
Yeah.
Are you nuts? Are you nuts?
Yeah. Unfortunately, everyone's wrong. The real reason.
Are you nuts?
The real reason why it happened.
I wouldn't even get into a U.S. submarine.
Is not because of the Xbox controller.
Well, I know it wasn't. It doesn't
and
matter.
it's not because of anything else.
It's just not a good look.
It's because of wokeness.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's because of wokeness.
Oh, you know what? That's what I thought.
That's right. It's
totally
still too early to politicize the submarine tragedy, but after all is said and done, we will have to have a national reckoning about how this was all caused by wokeness.
Totally. Well, it was because they were performing.
Are they memeing or are they serious?
This hell dude is memeing, but this is a real thing that the quartering said. It's because of wokeness. Why? Why is it woke? Why is this company woke? Turns out the CEO at a certain point said something along the lines of like, we want a more diverse group of individuals to hire from, because like white guys and their stories are not inspiring enough. OpenGate used a hand ratchet to seal the missing Titanic submarine. This is a torque wrench.
Yeah.
It's the correct tool for tightening fasteners. I use these types of tools daily on aircraft. Whether this was the right route to take or not is an engineering question, but the tools are not at fault.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, well, why do people think that like you? Of course you use a wrench.
Of course you use an Xbox controller.
Well, it's not about the Xbox controller. It's just I wouldn't feel okay if you boarded an aircraft, right, that was controlled with an Xbox controller. Wouldn't you be a little nervous?
No, people use those kinds of controllers.
I mean,
all
they
the time.
like use them on like UAVs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's an
The Xbox
unmanned
controller is
aircraft.
just a human machine interface device. It's the same thing as a keyboard and a mouse.
I just don't think it's.
I don't like that it's wireless.
I don't
'cause
think
that's
it's
another point of failure. But other than
I
that,
just don't
it
think
doesn't matter.
I don't think it's a good look. That's all I'm saying.
I don't disagree.
I don't think that's the reason. I just think it kind of plays into the narrative that it's just probably not a good idea.
Yeah,
All right.
we're on
Well,
the same page.
we were looking at what James Cameron is saying.
The similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night, and many people died as a result. And for a very similar tragedy where warnings went unheeded to take place at the same exact site, with all the diving that's going on all around the world, I think it's just astonishing. It's really quite surreal. And of course, P.H. Nargeolet, the French legendary submersible dive pilot, a friend of mine. You know, it's a very small community. I've known P.H. for 25 years. For him to have died tragically in this way is almost impossible for me to process.
Yes, I know James Cameron missed 9/11 when he was on a Titanic dive. I know. I've talked about this before. Wait, hold on. Let's continue from the rest of this video. Whoa, what the fuck? This looks fake.
And the certification protocols that all other deep submergence vehicles, except this one, that carry passengers, especially paying passengers, all over the world in tropical waters, deep coral reefs, other wreck sites, and so on. The safety record is the gold standard, absolutely. Not only no fatalities, but no major incidents requiring all of these assets to converge to a site. Of course, that's the nightmare that we've all lived with, you know, since all of us entered this field of deep exploration. We live with it in the back of our minds. But because implosion, as Bob described it, such a violent event, is first and foremost in our minds, the pressure boundary, which is what they call the hull of the sub, that the people go inside, is obviously first and foremost in our minds as engineers. And we spend so much time and energy on that. And we use all the computerized tools available today, finite element analysis. We worked on our sphere for our deep vehicle that went to the Challenger Deep for over 3 years, just in the computer, before we even made the thing. And then, of course, we pressure tested it over and over and over, and so on. So, you know, this is a mature art, and many people in the community were very concerned about this sub, and a number of the top players in the deep submergence engineering community even wrote letters to the company saying that what they were doing was too experimental to carry passengers and that needed to be certified and so on. So I'm struck by...
Which is odd because they flexed about how they avoided certifications like you avoid the top of the hour ad break. But basically, they had, we looked at their website where they were like openly fucking, oh, Sakura Gore, thank you for the 25 gifted subs. They were basically flexing that they fucking were not getting classified appropriately. Also, they lied. You'll appreciate this, Murat. And Austin, you will appreciate it as well. Ez Reed's Entropy, thank you for the 5 tier 1. Keith, thank you for the 5
was
tier
Boeing
1.
responsible for this one?
Boeing, UW, and NASA denied design partnerships with OceanGate. So they also apparently were lying and saying we used the expertise of Boeing. Maybe that's why Murat was defending it so hard. What the fuck?
Dude, James Cameron made the exact same argument I did.
What?
About certification, about...
What? No, he literally just said that
these guys weren't certified.
Yes.
That's what I said.
No, James Cameron is saying how stupid it is. James Cameron is agreeing with me and not you in this argument. What are you talking about? He literally said how positively idiotic it was to engage in such a dangerous endeavor when alternatives exist, alternatives that he has literally developed with his own hands, which is almost verbatim what I told you yesterday. He literally compared the negligence of the Titan person to the Titanic captain. He said, that's how fucking stupid it was.
The similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night.
I'm sorry.
And many people died as a result. And for a very similar tragedy where warnings went unheeded to take place at the same exact site, with all the diving that's going on all around the world, I think it's just astonishing. It's really quite surreal. And of course, P.H. Nargeolet, the French legendary submersible dive pilot, a friend of mine. It's a very small community. I've known PH for 25 years. For him to have died tragically in this way is almost impossible for me to process.
It is certainly haunting to consider that comparison to the Titanic and what happened to
Titanic, and this is what happened, right? Yeah. Nobody saw the Titanic coming at the time.
It's just also funny that it has already it has failed in every other way leading up to this moment in multiple different dives, and they didn't even fix any of those other issues.
That's what I'm saying.
Including the dive where they got fucking lost for 5 hours, and they could not be they couldn't find them.
But how did they convince these people to get on this fucking?
Once that happens,
how did they convince people to do it?
Wait, what do you mean? People are fucking psychotically obsessed with the Titanic, apparently.
I mean, I went down a Titanic rabbit hole, but I never would go down in the ocean.
I don't even understand why people are so obsessed with Titanic. I actually genuinely don't get it. It's a decent movie, but what the fuck is the point? You're literally looking at the dead corpse of a goddamn ship.
I mean,
it makes no sense to me.
It's very interesting to me, but
it makes no fucking sense to me at all.
the 5 people on board this submersible vehicle. James, I want to ask you though, since you've been down on these dive missions before, we talked about the safety risks. We've reported on the fact that the people on board signed waivers. They knew that this was dangerous, and that there weren't very many other vehicles that could come get them out if something goes wrong. How aware were you of those concerns and those risks before you went down? And is there anything that should be done when it comes to safety in the future?
Look, it's comparing apples and oranges here. I went with a very proven system when I dove at Titanic with the Russian submersibles. They used very, very well understood design methodologies, and they had an excellent operating record when I dove with them, and they continued to have an excellent operating record, flawless operating record throughout their entire career. I think they're now retired, but I always had great confidence. Now, having said that, I always had confidence in the sub. The Titanic wreck site is a very hostile place. It's a dangerous site to dive. If you think of a typical research dive, you go down and you're really just operating over a bottom. You may be looking for organisms. You may be looking at geology. Hydrothermal vent sites can be a bit dangerous as well. But Titanic, you've got this 8-story, 10-story high structure with overhanging metal structures. It's a twisted mess. You can get entangled. And entanglement was always a concern of ours, but we dove with a 2-sub system. We always felt confident that if one of the subs got ensnared, you'd still have communication, you'd still have life support, you'd still have power, you'd have another sub there that could help you manage the problem. We always felt that we were on pretty safe ground. This sub.
Okay. Here's another component that I mentioned already, but let me describe it to you. This is from the Washington Post. A top secret U.S. Navy acoustic detection system designed to spot enemy submarines first heard the Titan sub implosion hours after the submersible began its mission, officials involved in the search said. The Navy began listening for the Titan almost as soon as the sub lost communications, according to a U.S. defense official. I love that every instrument of war in America always has a "they were on our radar" moment. Like, this is the Navy's, "oh, they were on our radar" moment. You know what I mean? You know how like after every fucking mass shooting, the FBI is like, "oh, this guy was on our radar. We didn't do anything about it." Like,
What are they supposed to do?
what do you mean? It's over. Once the implosion is detected with actual radar, you immediately inform every authority possible. You release a press statement and you tell people these guys are dead.
But they didn't know for sure.
The Navy began listening for the Titan almost as soon as the sub lost communications, according to the U.S. defense official. Shortly after his disappearance, the U.S. system detected what it suspected was the sound of an implosion near the debris site discovered Thursday and reported its findings to the commander on site, U.S. defense officials said. No, the real reason is because it's fucking top. The acoustics device that they were.
That's why.
No, the acoustic devices they were using is like a secret. So they just like fucking didn't.
They just didn't want to tell.
But then why did they release it now? Which is what I don't understand. They didn't inform them right away, but it was kept under wraps to the press until they had the wreckage to confirm the sound the array picked up was for sure an explosion. I guess it also reveals the confines or the limitations of the acoustic device, so maybe that's why. I don't know. I feel like they're bullshitting. Didn't they say the noises were Morse code?
Austin has a baby brain. No, you have a fucking baby brain for not knowing
Get
how
him,
to take
get
a
her
fucking
ass.
joke, you dumb shit.
Get his ass. Get his fucking
What a
ass.
dumbass.
You fucking tell him.
I'm getting under your skin, baby brain.
Sub had no backup. It didn't have a lot of backup systems, from what I understand, and it was predicated on what I think of as a fundamentally flawed design principle, which is a carbon fiber hull. Which, when I first heard about a move toward composite hulls, and this was many years ago, even when I was designing my sub, there was another sub that was in competition with us to get to the Challenger Deep, that was operated by a guy named Chris Welsh for Richard Branson, and they had a composite hull. And I told those guys, I said, somebody's going to get killed in that sub or in a sub like it. And the DNA of the Ocean Gate sub was in that sub at the time. You know, 2 hemispherical end caps and a carbon fiber cylinder in the center. And I never believed in that, because the way it fails is it delaminates, because you have to have a hull, a pressure hull made out of a contiguous material like steel or like titanium, you know, which is the proven standard, or like acrylic. You know, you know, I have a small equity stake in I think one of the best submersible companies in the world, Triton Submersibles, and they use acrylic for their hulls. But once again, it's a contiguous material, so you can do computer modeling to see how it'll behave. But, you know, this Ocean Gate sub had sensors on the inside of the hull to give them a warning when it was starting to crack. And I think if that's your idea of safety, then you're doing it wrong. You don't, and they probably had warning that their hull was starting to delaminate and starting to crack. Because as Bob pointed out, it's our belief, we understand from inside the community, that they had dropped their ascent weights and they were coming up trying to manage an emergency.
And to your point, a warning only goes so far when you have the ability to get back to the surface, or there's a backup vehicle there to come help you out of a bad situation. James Cameron, thank you so much for your time. I would like to bring Bob Ballard back in while we still have him on the line here, because Bob, I understand the wreckage of the Titanic here. It's not going to last forever. What more can we learn, should we learn about that shipwreck, and what can we do as we continue to explore this space in the ocean?
Well, the Titanic's bow went deep in. The anchor you were just showing is almost touching the set.
Do you guys want to see a digital
Look up, was it Glomar? Were they trying to do that?
A digital simulation of the Ocean Gate submarine imploding due to deep sea pressures has been released on TikTok. The instant collapse of the pressure of the hull would immediately heat in the air and the sub around the surface of the sun's temperature as a wall of metal and seawater smashed one end of the boat to the other, all in around 30 milliseconds.
Yes. No. I mean, I don't know about the 30 milliseconds or the heat of the sun, but yeah, implosions are. Think about it this way. Right now, we're standing at sea level, right? It's 14 point. Is it 14 point something psi around you? That's atmospheric pressure.
Okay.
Down there, it's like a couple of thousand.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is it? But up there, what about in the sky?
So you have
It's thinner.
Yeah, the atmospheric pressure goes lower the higher you go, but don't forget you're surrounded by air right now. Think that you're in like a cylinder, right? And you're just trying to hold like air up. It's like not that heavy, right? There's just nothing.
As an aerospace engineer, this is extremely my shit.
And now imagine I just start putting like gallons of water on top of your hand, and you're trying to keep it up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here. Similar to this, but like way
But
more
that's
severe.
14 psi.
Yeah, that was way more severe.
So
what is it? Does
you're
it turn
holding
into
up
like
water,
a fucking
right? Imagine they put a foot of water on top of your hand. Imagine they put 10. Imagine they put 20,000 feet of water. So basically, you have a pressure vessel, right? The reason it's circular is because the force gets distributed evenly.
Why do they do this?
That's just testing the failure modes, right? They either have a valve or something. Right about 9.
So the remaining part is still safe?
I don't know what this thing is, but that's what I would assume it is.
There it was. Right about 9 minutes.
But again, the pressures that we're talking about are insane underwater. It's like, you know how when we talk about spaceflight, it's like we're doing something that's really difficult and we're learning a lot about it.
The young kid didn't even want to go. That's the saddest part.
No.
Yeah. Apparently, his aunt said that he didn't want to go. He was terrified before the trip to Titanic, but went to please his dad because the trip fell over Father's Day weekend. He didn't want to do it.
Billionaires are the fucking worst, dude.
Yeah.